But you can't do this to me. You know how much I sacrificed?
This was it! What do you think I've been working the past 10 years of my life for? I was gonna be the youngest world champ in the history of the game. That's over now. They stole it from me, Carmine. They took it. That was today. Today.
If it's right, I don't care how long it takes.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and I'm back for another Wolf Among Us 2 video. There are 3 guarantees in life, you guys. Death, taxes, and waiting as a Telltale Games fan. I just recently made a video a couple weeks ago, basically one of my first update videos of 2024, and it's already been 4 months through the year, and things are just continuing to be stagnant at Telltale Games. People are getting very fed up, and as I've continued to reiterate in each of these videos, that the longer they wait, the less likely I think that we'll ever end up seeing this game, because we need acknowledgement of the game's existence. Now, in today's video, we do have that, but it is not something that, like, you should jump for joy, jump for glee. Like, we should be celebrating the fact that this game is still in development. Have we really gotten that down low on this? That's how bad things have gotten. Yes, that we are celebrating them, acknowledging that the game is still being worked on. It's actually insane. This game has been worked on since 2020, and it is a number of factors why this has happened. I've talked about the waiting, the lack of communication, the silence. It needs to end. And, you know, this little article that I'm going to be talking about in this video, I've talked about this actually a lot in the last couple videos. The video about Life is Strange 4, The Walking Dead potentially getting a 5th season down the line, and now the Wolf Among Us 2 was referenced in this video, and Telltale Games actually acknowledged a question about, well, are you still working on The Wolf Among Us 2? This is a mess, to say the least, and we're going to go through what was said in this article, then I'm going to go through some threads that describe what is going on at LCG Entertainment, who took up Telltale. You know, we know Deck 9 and their issues now, we know what's going on with Ad Hoc Studios. Not good. If you guys do enjoy this video, please be sure to drop a like, subscribe. Let's go for 1,000 likes on this video. If you do appreciate my updates on The Wolf Among Us 2, this is actually our first acknowledgement in terms of an update from Telltale Games in a while. So, should you know about that near 50% of people are subscribed by hitting on the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, have it set to all so you don't miss any of my videos discussing Telltale Games of The Wolf Among Us. And make sure you go follow my social media, join our Discord, follow me on Twitter, Instagram down below, and follow my TikTok. Alright guys, let's get straight into it. So recently there was an article on Deck 9 Games and their toxic work culture, but also what they've been working on. And it was recently revealed that we knew The Wolf Among Us 2 was worked on by several companies, Telltale Games and Ad Hoc Studios. Telltale had originally approached Deck 9 about co-developing the game, but it never came to be. But we know recently Telltale Games has had a lot of issues behind the scenes in terms of the layoffs, lack of money, a lot of issues with the writing and employees and all that, which we'll go through here in a minute in those threads. This line from the article that just recently came out on Deck 9 Games. Recently it was revealed, and I talked about in my last video, that Skybound had approached Deck 9 Games to help them develop a Walking Dead Season 5 or a Walking Dead sequel. Turned out they canceled the deal and that didn't happen, so Deck 9 lost a lot of money and had to lay off a bunch of people. But then also on top of that, another blow. Telltale Games and Deck 9 here. Deck 9 had been working on a pre-production script for The Wolf Among Us 2. Now, why is that shocking? Because I just had mentioned Ad Hoc Studios. What the heck happened with them? I was certain that, at least that what I've known following this, is that Ad Hoc was doing the writing and Telltale was developing the game. So what the heck happened? Is Ad Hoc still working on it? I assume they are, but why was Deck 9 now randomly thrown in? We had no idea that Deck 9 was even involved in the project. I mean, we knew that Telltale had approached them, but it basically didn't go anywhere. But I'm assuming because of all these issues Telltale's had behind the scenes. And also Telltale, remember, has worked with Deck 9 on The Expanse, that this was a thing. Like, wow. And with those money issues, Telltale pulled the funding, so Deck 9 is no longer involved with The Wolf Among Us 2, and maybe Telltale did it so they could just focus more on the game, but because of those issues now, and this maybe can explain now why things have taken so long. You had a team working on a pre-production script at Deck 9, but last year, we remember, Telltale had those money issues and had to back off, so it's like, oh crud, now you've got a pre-production script written by people at Deck 9 that maybe they have to scrap now or have other people write? That's not good. And Telltale Games, in a statement to IGN, said the following, that The Wolf Among Us 2 remains in production internally at Telltale. We value our relationship with Deck 9 and continue to explore ways we can work together. So, no Deck 9 involved with The Wolf Among Us 2. As for Ad Hoc, I don't know. I assume they're still working on it, but I've got no inclination that they are. So if this is true that both Deck 9 and Ad Hoc were removed, it's only Telltale, and that means things have probably slowed down immensely. Because remember, Telltale had all layoffs too, where they had to cut a lot of people that were working on The Wolf Among Us 2. If you remember Jay Jonah, that I brought up, the guy that was one of the guys that was working on The Wolf Among Us 2, basically said that a whole lot of the Wolf Among Us 2 team was laid off last year. So this is just a freaking mess. Now you've got less people working on the game, you've got less money, all that. It means everything's gonna take longer. And honestly, I'm starting to really tell you guys, I really don't want to admit this, and it's getting really close. I'm telling you, if we do not hear anything by the Summer Game Fest, this game's getting pushed to 2025. I'm booking it, set it in stone, and I honestly think at this point, it's almost an inevitability that 2025 seems like it's going to be the release. And that is maybe even wishful thinking at this point. We don't even know how far along this game is. Again, all we know is that a pre-production script last year was being worked on by Deck 9. We don't even know if the pre-production script's even done yet, but we know the game's in production still. So it's like, how much more of this game needs to be worked on? And we don't even know the full extent of that. So, very, very concerning. And I'll link that article down below in the description where you could read this. It's basically at the end of the article. But no Deck 9 involved with Wolf Among Us 2. Telltale Games is working on the game internally, so take that as a positive. The game is still being worked on according to them. But someone who follows me, I appreciate them very much. I had actually someone link me this, so I wanted to take a look at this. Here's a complicated thread on LCG Entertainment. Telltale Games from seemingly having a genuine interest in continuing the legacy of the original Telltale to delaying their most anticipated release and not announcing layoffs when they occurred. So LTG Entertainment was created on December 27, 2018 by Jamie Otley and Brian Waddle and began negotiating what was left of the Telltale assets in February 2019, taking 6 months where the acquisition was officially announced. CEO of Telltale Games Jamie Otley promised the conditions that plagued the original studio weren't going to persist with its iteration. Telltale Games' episodic formula would also be retooled so that the entire game would be developed at the same time. New Telltale Games acquired licenses of Batman, Wolf Among Us, and Puzzle Age, as well as many others, and announced in December 12th they were working on The Wolf Among Us 2. 2 years later, they would announce The Expanse at the Game Awards that would co-develop with Deck 9, released on July 27th, with 4 episodes released every 2 weeks. Around the same time, the announcement of The Expanse on February 9th, 2022, Wolf Among Us 2 official trailer was uploaded with a 2020 release date, and about a year later, Telltale Games received $8 million as part of a Series A funding round with Hero Capital and Skybound, which we've talked about all this. The Wolf Among Us 2 was announced to be delayed only less than a month after the funding in March 2023 to avoid the mistakes of a crunch culture that the old Telltale Games perpetrated while taking advantage of switching to Unreal Engine 5. But on August 10th, 2023, Telltale announced they acquired Flavorworks, UK mobile live-action game studio who's most known for Erica, as well as their touch video technology that lets players touch the screen to control the actors' choices. There was a layoff the next month in September that wasn't made public until October 5th, where Jonah Huang, a cinematic artist for both the original Telltale Games and new revealed it was, as well as most of the entire crew of Wolf Among Us, was laid off. A day later, Telltale confirmed the layoffs did occur, but confirmed that The Wolf Among Us 2 was still in production in spite of the layoffs, while not disclosing how many employees will lay off. It's important to acknowledge that Telltale themselves claim that around 10 employees were fired, but the same Polygon article also claims that the layoffs continued into their acquisition of Flavorworks. This is tangentially related, but Deck 9 also announced layoffs of their own, and one of my friends who claims to have sources Deck 9 knew about the layoffs the day before while stating that it was the entire The Expanse team. Oh, shiskies, I didn't know about that. So what exactly is Telltale Games doing? I've neglected to mention this before, but the Expanse Telltale series isn't a Telltale game, it's a Deck 9 game. Even when looking at the credits, most of them aren't dedicated to Telltale Games, who are mostly involved with PR. I haven't played Live but the choice system is very similar, and according to one of my friends, this might be using the same engine that used for True Colors. My current belief is that Telltale Games... My current belief is that Telltale Games active right now isn't streamfully developing games anymore. At the very least, they'll be working with other studios for certain games. But seeing people champion the expanse as Telltale's big comeback feels wrong. At most, Telltale is going to act as publisher from here on out. I don't inherently think this is bad, but I feel like it should be something they come out with instead of saying co-developed. Along with this, The Wolf Among Us 2 is being co-developed with Ad Hoc, which early in the thread I brought up are comprised of ex-Telltale employees, which likely means Wolf Among Us 2 is going to be made with a similar design philosophy for the first. Alright, so this is the second thread. Glassdoor review also confirms that there were behind-the-scenes conflicts even before the announcement of the layoffs and don't paint a good picture of the new Telltale games. Like these reviews. 1.8. Paychecks arrive on time. There are a lot of great televisions working around Telltale. This is a stay away if possible. 1 out of 5 stars. Most dysfunctional leadership I've seen in my career, and that's saying a lot. Senior leadership is in an open war among themselves without even bothering to pretend otherwise. They leap to conclusions without actually talking to anyone on the development teams. They are trying to build game teams with a mix of developers from Telltale, Ad Hoc, and independent companies like Tech9, each with their own agenda and goals that aren't necessarily the goals of the overall game team. Each of these small companies negotiate exclusively with the CEO, making it impossible for any production leader to be successful. Tweets are part speculatory, but I want to talk about Telltale Games and their partnership with Ad Hoc Studios because there is a serious evidence to support the idea that they not only split off, but they've been split off since about December 2022. And this is what I've talked about, is that Telltale Games and Ad Hoc are no longer together. Like, that's why Deck 9 was working on it. So think about it. If Deck 9's gone, which we do know they are now, and if Ad Hoc is gone, which we're not certain, but it seems likely that they are, Telltale's only doing this by themselves unless they've hired another studio, which makes sense. About a month ago on the Wolf Among Us subreddit, someone made a post about whether Telltale should be posting any news about the game, and when someone pointed out that Ad Hoc isn't advertised on Telltale's Wolf Among Us 2, and Ad Hoc no longer promotes Wolf Among Us, Jonah had this to say. Does Ad Hoc still work with Telltale? I see on the Wolf Among Us 2 page there's no Ad Hoc logo on the bottom. I also hear that there was a page on Ad Hoc's site, but it's nowhere to be found. I can neither confirm nor deny if they still are, as saying anything would violate my NDA. Ad Hoc's website, as it only promotes cart life on the games page, a game they didn't originally make, but announced last year they were bringing back from the grave, and yet there isn't a sign or mention of the Wolf Among Us 2. Check out the website through the Wayback Machine. What do you know? The Wolf Among Us 2 was not only promoted on the main page, but only stopped being promoted in December 22, a few months before the delay was announced. Wow, this is shocking. Something I want to make clear is the Wayback Machine never labels the December 26, 22 capture as that. It labels the March 22, 22 capture as a definitive proof split would have happened in the delay. This is their website. There is much more evidence from Alex Twitter. The last tweet referencing work on Wolf Among Us 2, a retweet of jobs they're offering in July 22. Last tweet they liked about Wolf Among Us 2 was in November. Damn, 2022. The Ad Hoc still follows Telltale, one of the most recent publications for January this year. Also mentions Wolf 2. I feel like bringing this is important because it could potentially disprove prior evidence. Oh, they show me. How nice. So it does say it a little bit, though. Same time, there are job postings that used to mention working on the sequel of Among Us before, having mentioned being removed from next year, so it's equally possible they forgot to take the mention down. But what about Telltale side of things? Well, their page for the Wolf Among Us 2 never put Ad Hoc as one of the studios involved with making the games. Expanse, well, never had to mention Deck 9's involvement. I feel like this whole situation is a 75-25 scenario. I really don't want to believe that Telltale and Ad Hoc split because of all the implications it would have had on the current Telltale decisions. I do generally want to assume, if it ever turns out to be true, that the entire reason why they delayed the Wolf Among Us 2 could be because of Ad Hoc and them splitting to themselves, desperately trying to buy time to get some work done themselves with some other companies. When the last reviews briefly mentioned it, but Telltale isn't just working with Ad Hoc and Deck 9, but also several other companies for rigging and VFX. Keep in mind, working with other companies isn't bad. Potentially lying about the reasons why you delay your game. I always thought the reason delaying Wolf Among Us 2 was because of wanting to switch on Unreal Engine 5. Felt really weak and purely aesthetical and not really fully beneficial. Releasing the Expanse for Wolf Among Us was also unusual, but I was willing to give it a chance because there was potential, and I feel like it was squandered by the final release. Generally, I wasn't really going to talk about him originally, but one of my friends gave me a tip that Telltale wasn't his first rodeo, and I'm not joking when I say almost every game he was involved with was bad. I want Telltale to improve, but the conditions they have right now are representative of the gaming landscape in general. We need to change that because I don't think replacing the CEO will fix anything. Telltale Games deserves better. I think Jonah Wang said it best. Then when I said most of the team were laid off, I was specifically referencing the Wolf Among Us 2 team. From my perspective, you have every right to wonder what the status of the game is. That's where I'm at right now. I know more about last year of development, but I'm under NDA and cannot say anything about it. I'm with everyone right now. I'm wondering what's happening with production. I'm wondering what even can happen with production concerning all the people who were laid off. I'm wondering about what the mythical team of people actively producing the game are. Did Telltale hire new people after killing us off? If so, who? Why? They told us we were laid off due to market reasons, not because our work was lacking in any way. I shipped a ton of Telltale games in the past. Even as a lead, I know that I and the people I was working with are capable of doing this work because we've done it before so many times on so many episodes on so many games. Based on this, I can say you vastly underestimate the effort that goes into making a Telltale game. I look in the subreddit and Telltale one because I'm just curious as everyone else. I'm waiting to see what they're going to say. I do hope for the best, and The Wolf Among Us 2 comes out someday. I always wanted to work on it, and I did briefly, but I won't be there when or if it ships. I'm not even sure I'll get credit, to be honest. And while I can't say anything that might hurt Telltale financially, NDA stuff, I do want to express that this whole situation has been personally extremely frustrating. I think I'm allowed to express that. My former colleagues haven't spoken out about this, which is understandable. They are trying to get work. They need to pay bills, keep their bridges unburned, and get whatever jobs in the industry that are available to them. I hate being the only one speaking out about this. I'm not doing it for attention. I'm not using this to market my personal game or to gain some big following. But I think it's unfair that of the audience here to disregard the lives of the humans who are passionate about developing the game, the humans who are discarded without a second thought or even a public announcement. Not until a former playing me said something. Honestly, it hurts, and I've read some pretty mean comments about me on Twitter. And shout out to Thane for that. I'm pretty sure they watch my videos, so thank you for giving me insight on this. I mean, this is, again, I follow this a bit, but some people follow this a bit more than me, a lot more than me. So I appreciate you keeping tabs, and I was able to showcase this in the video. So I'll link their tweets down below where you can check out this thread if you're curious to do that. Overall, it's safe to say The Wolf Among Us 2 is in development still, but I would treat it as something that I'm not expecting anything for a while. Now, there is always the slim chance at the Summer Game Fest, which is what I'm praying, my fingers are crossed, that we could end up hearing an update. But it seems like based on what I've read here and what has been showcased, don't expect something major. Maybe a trailer. But the chances of this game releasing this year, especially with only a pre-production script being worked on last year by Deck 9 and that being basically canned and the layoffs, I don't know if we're going to see this game this year. It just seems very unlikely at this point for me. But I'm hoping that maybe they've had a lot of progress done already. I don't know. We don't know because they haven't said much, and we're having to go through, like, employees that have been laid off, websites. A lot of it's speculatory. So, I don't know. I'm hoping, though, summer, come on, guys, Telltale, give us something. The silence has to end soon enough. But thank you guys so much for watching this. If you enjoyed this, be sure to drop a like and subscribe. This will probably be my last update. Maybe before the Summer Game Fest. We'll see unless something does happen in between now and then. But I'll link everything down below where you can check it out. And I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Let's go for 1,000 likes on this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace and love, and have a great day. Bye-bye.